If you're like me, you finished this episode thinking, yeah, this episode had me shaking my head faster than my girlfriend seeing me naked. Nice sack, I'm kidding, I don't have a girlfriend. There are so many new clues and theories to discuss. What does Coble have on Lumon? Will Gretchen fall in love with Dylan? What about Mark's reintegration? And the goats, we can't forget the damn goats. So warm up some waffles, make sure to like and subscribe, and let's praise Kier. Charlotte Coble, the breathing tube, and is Coble an Egan? Well, it looks like Miss Coble isn't taking Lumon's promotion. Instead, we find her 238 miles away from Salt's Neck, a fictitious town in the middle of nowhere. After loading her suitcase and narrowly running over Mark, we notice that she's fixated on something in the passenger seat, a breathing tube. This is the same tube we saw in Season 1 as part of Coble's shrine to Kier, so obviously, this means a lot to her. It's labeled Charlotte Coble, with the date March 17, 1944. Charlotte was likely a close family member, perhaps her mother, but the show has kept a lot of mystery surrounding Coble's mom. At Lumon, Harmony tells Mark that her mother was an atheist. You know, my mother was an atheist. But in the outside world, she says she was a devout Catholic. You know, my mother was a Catholic. Whatever happened to Charlotte must tie in with Lumon, as it appears Harmony has some sort of leverage over them, something that could harm the company. One theory suggests that Coble is the bastard child of one of the Egans. This could explain why she's obsessed with them and why Helly has to be careful with how she handles her. Coble could tarnish the Egan name by going to the press and exposing the truth about Lumon and her heritage. We didn't have to ask you back. You didn't have a choice. She'll find herself back at Lumon, face to face with Helena, demanding that her needs be met if she is to return to MDR. After all, they're so close to finishing Cold Harbor, the mysterious case file with connections to Miss Casey. In past videos, I've argued that MDR is attempting to bring her back, with Lumon's end goal being to bring back Kier Egan himself, a process that has not been perfected. Further proof of Coble's relationship with the Egans is highlighted in her jab at Helena. Everything I accomplished, I earned. Not because I was born into it. Unlike Helena, Coble had to prove herself to Lumon. It's only because Coble has something on Lumon that Helena caves and asks if she wants to talk to the board. But what kind of board can be assembled at a moment's notice? In my episode 1 video, I theorized that the board isn't a group of people at all, it could be a computer, or even a motherboard. This would explain why we never hear the board speak. The board could be the consciousness of all past Egans, guiding the company even after death. It's also strange that Natalie is the only one who seems to hear the board. If you rearrange the letters in her full name, Natalie Kalin, you get antenna-like, but that could just be a coincidence. Helena also asks Coble if she wants a reset. This could have a double meaning, either a fresh start in their relationship or a literal reset of Coble's severance chip. One theory suggests that Coble is, or was, severed herself. She carries a severance chip as a necklace, which might explain some of the inconsistencies in her character. A reset could mean something more sinister, wiping her mind entirely so she can start over as a blank slate. Coble is set to talk with the board, but upon seeing Helena's driver, she backs off. Notice how he steps forward and the camera focuses on him. To my knowledge, this is the first time we've seen him, but something about him makes Coble retreat. It seems like these two have some sort of history. This leaves Coble's story up in the air. Will she return to Lumon and accept her new position as head of the Severance Advisory Council? Will she try speaking with the board another day? Or is she done with Lumon for good? Mark's reintegration. In the meantime, Imprince Audi has formulated an intricate arrangement to consume his retinas with the expression "who is alive?" This is a frantic endeavor to speak with his anyone that Rabes says could forever daze him. Also, how is his any expected to communicate something specific back? We haven't seen Rabes since Season 1 and the homicide of Mr. Gather. Her personality is covered in secret. All we truly know is that she once worked for Lumon, embedding severance chips. Presently, she's important for an enemy of Lumon bunch, reintegrating individuals back into society. One such individual was Petey, and we as a whole expertise that ended up. In any case, Rabe demands that was somewhat in light of the fact that Petey didn't adhere to her directions. Some way or another, Rabe realizes that Imprint is in this neglected region under the train tracks. She realizes he intends to consume a message into his retinas. She is familiar with how the innies initiated the additional time possibility. She or whoever she works with should have eyes on Imprint and a covert operative inside Lumon. Yet, one of the greatest uncovers yet. She knew Miss Casey. She was alive the last time Rabe saw her. As a matter of fact, it's even conceivable that it was Rabe who embedded her severance chip. In Miss Casey's head, Imprint's Audi is so in torment over the passing of his significant other he doesn't allow Robbie to complete her sentence when she inquires as to whether he maintains that the two pieces of his cut-off cerebrum should be sewed together, a cycle that could have him end up like Petey. She lets him know she's gotten better at this, proposing there have been other people who have gone through this cycle. That implies there could be Lumon representatives we realize who are concealing the way that they've been reintegrated. You'll see 5 different hued wires associated with Imprint's cerebrum, every one addressing an alternate mind wave. I really found this cool picture that turns out every one of these waves, and the varieties coordinate with those tracked down on Imprint's wires. There are likewise red and blue wires in the introduction credit arrangement. I likewise found it fascinating that there are 5 mind waves and furthermore 5 canisters in the large-scale refinement PCs. Maybe by arranging the numbers, MDR is recalibrating a subject's cerebrum waves, similar to Miss Casey, very much like the way in which our innies were given a rundown of inquiries upon appearance on the cutoff floor. So 2 checks. We don't have the foggiest idea about the specialized particulars of what Robbie is truly doing here, yet it seems as though she's attempting to coordinate 2 separate waves, one from the innie and one from the outie, into one recurrence. By placing them in a state of harmony, she is basically sewing the 2 pieces of the cerebrum together. Albeit these inquiries don't give us anything excessively impactful, we truly do figure out Imprint's mom's name was Greenery, a name that strangely represents everlasting life. We'll likewise see what seems, by all accounts, to be salt-precious stones leap to the vibrations, and it very well may be a stretch, yet these could be connected with the picture found in Miss Casey's record. One thing I found very dismal was Imprint's right hand shaking, and you know it's bad when Robbie is like, goodness. Maybe this was placed in the show just to add a perilous component to this system, or it could hint Imprint encountering exactly the same things that happened to Petey. Toward the finish of addressing, it seems Imprint has failed to remember all of his Audi recollections, which leaves us with a few inquiries going ahead. Did Robbie basically not finish the interaction? Will Check encounter the cutoff floor as his Audi? Or on the other hand, is this flagging that the following episode will be a flashback where we see Imprint's most memorable day at Lumon? Mark and Helly's abnormal foyer scene. In the interim, Imprint's innie has his own odd experience as he and Helly proceed with their quest for Miss Casey. They've even made missing people banners. The innies have conceived an arrangement: Imprint and Helly will dare to the GOAT division, Irv to optics and plan, and Dylan should check whether he can find anybody close to the new lounge. We'll before long see the reason why Dylan is by all accounts undermining the innies. In my last video, we discussed Helly not being Helly by any means. This is really Helena Egan acting like her to penetrate the innies. Also, this abnormal non-kiss scene must be quite possibly of the greatest piece of information that helped this hypothesis. Helly is reckless, certain, and wouldn't flutter an eyelash to step up and kiss Imprint. That is the very thing that we saw toward the finish of Season 1. This Helly, in any case, is modest, compliant, and abnormal. The GOAT office made sense of. They advance toward the GOAT room from Season 1, driving them to a crap-filled corridor that opens into an enormous indoor verdant meadow, one that is shockingly like what we find in the introduction credits. Here, we'll meet Wendell Christie's anonymous person, who refers to this spot as Mammon's Nurtural. For the present, I'm about to call it the GOAT division. Her most memorable line is, "Are you going to kill me?" And this isn't whenever we've first seen this preventiveness with regards to different divisions. At the point when Dylan meets Bert from Optics and Plan, he likewise believes he's come to kill them, originating from an old story that Odie once slaughtered the MDR division. We've seen a composition of this named The Bleak Barbarity of Optics and Plan in episode 105. However, look what Dylan coincidentally finds later in that episode when he's in OD, that equivalent composition, yet presently it's named The Full-Scale Information Refinement Disaster, portraying MDR killing OD. Their identification tones have been switched. It appears like whoever made these works of art needs to plant doubt between the divisions since, supposing that the divisions doubt one another, they're more straightforward to control. They won't bring together, and I envision this is what's going on in the GOAT division. Are you here to kill me? From the outset, I thought the specialists here probably won't be cut off. Nonetheless, this ends up being false when one of the GOAT men uncovers that he met with Miss Casey, who said his Audi adored stargazing. Envision being the Audi of one of these folks and getting back home resembling GOAT consistently. It turns out Miss Casey would do their health meetings in the cultivation tanks, and all they truly realize about her is that she's resigned. So not all that brilliant here, with the exception of this unusual solicitation that they see imprint and Helly's guts. They are hoping to check whether they have pockets like a marsupial, and I think this leads into the actual reason for why there is a GOAT division in any case. First, we must recognize that GOAT imagery is closely tied to Lumon's founder, Keir Egan. In the Taming of the Four Tempers painting, we see a goat represented as one of these tempers, with many believing it to represent malice. A goat dancer is seen during Dylan's waffle party, and goat imagery has been littered in the background even in this episode. Various cultures, religions, and mythologies attribute several meanings to goats, and the goat in Severance can symbolize many things: sacrifice, rebellion, evil, and even the occult. There's also a theory that Severance is heavily inspired by the 1894 horror fantasy novel The Great God Pan. The parallels are striking. The god Pan has the body of a goat, the maze-like hallways resemble Pan's labyrinth, and there's a doctor who performs brain surgery to allow his patient to see another world. Even one of the main characters is named Helen, which could be a nod to the novel. However, there may also be a practical reason for the goats. With Lumon's deep roots in the pharmaceutical industry, these animals could be used for medical experiments. The goat department's eerie question about whether Mark and Helly had pouches is an ominous detail, suggesting that Lumon might even be experimenting on humans. If their goal is to control workers, goats could be useful test subjects since they are naturally more rebellious than, say, sheep. Additionally, goats have been used in cloning experiments, which raises even more unsettling possibilities about what Lumon is really up to. Dylan meeting his Audi's wife is trouble. Back at MDR, Dylan is offered an irresistible perk, a chance to meet his Audi's wife. His hesitation in helping the other innies stems from his desire to learn more about his Audi's life. In Season 1, he briefly saw his son, and now Milchick is tempting him with even more information if he plays along. Dylan doesn't want to jeopardize this opportunity, and his loyalty is rewarded when MS. Coble invites him to the security room, now transformed into the Audi family visitation suite that Milchick showed him earlier. His good behavior earns him 18 minutes with Gretchen, his wife, whose voice he first heard when he fumbled his job at the door factory. Notice how Gretchen wears purple. Color symbolism is important in Severance. Red represents the outside world, while blue represents the inside. Purple, a mix of red and blue, visually represents the collision of these two worlds. Through Gretchen, we gain insight into Dylan's Audi, who struggles in ways his innie does not. Innie Dylan excels at his job, but Audi Dylan seems lost. Gretchen shows him a picture of their family, including their 3 children: Jim, Ruth, and Merrick. Miss Coble listens intently, ensuring Gretchen doesn't reveal any sensitive information. However, she accidentally lets it slip that Milchick's first name is Seth, something the innies were unaware of. This scene is deeply manipulative. By reminding Dylan that his family is counting on him, Lumon makes it harder for him to rebel. The show may even be setting him up for a major betrayal. Outside of Lumon, Gretchen seems to shoulder most of the family's responsibilities. While Dylan lounges on the couch reading Midlife Driver, she reminds him about their child's medication and that it's their turn to bring cookies for Jim's class. Even something as simple as buying store-bought cookies requires her guidance. Did anyone else notice the tear on Dylan's face? It disappears in the next shot. Also, Gretchen never mentions that she saw his innie earlier that day, even though you'd think that would be an important conversation. Another small but telling moment when she leaves the innie scene, she says I love you, but she doesn't say it to his outie. If Dylan and Gretchen continue to meet, could they develop a romance? Innie Dylan is the man Gretchen wants outie Dylan to be, and that moral dilemma would make for compelling television. Would it be considered cheating? Also, Gretchen works nights while Dylan works days, which must put a strain on their relationship. Other interesting details. The little K doll. Milchick's pineapple gift basket on the table. Gretchen's uniform possibly indicating she's a police officer or forest ranger. Dylan responding with copy that, which suggests she may use radios in her job. Milchick's gift. One of the most surreal storylines this episode involves Seth Milchick. His loyalty to Lumon is rewarded with a disturbing gift, a series of reimagined paintings in which Keir Egan is depicted as a black man. We've seen many of these paintings before, such as the youthful condolence of Keir and Keir invites you to drink of his water. However, race hasn't been explicitly discussed in Severance. In the episode 1 podcast, Ben Stiller, Adam Scott, and Trammell Tillman, who plays Milchick, discuss what it means to be a black man at Lumon. The key question they raise is, does he even know he's black? This raises profound questions. What does it mean to exist in a world where you aren't represented? How does Milchick reconcile this? Episode 3 scratches the surface of this issue, but Milchick's reaction is telling. He stashes the paintings away, not wanting to see Keir's artificially blue eyes in his new black form. Why does Milchick reject these paintings? Is he in denial of his own identity? Is he rejecting what is clearly a token attempt by Lumon to make him feel included? Learning more about Milchick's inner world would be fascinating, and hopefully, future episodes will explore his psychology in greater depth. Briefly discussing what he was doing on his computer terminal, here is the management control panel showing 4 personal ID listings. As far as I know, none of these numbers match up with the ID numbers of our 4 innies. On the next screen, we'll see that this is some sort of surveillance system with the phrase executive drawer system. Whatever this is, it looks like Milch has an eye on our innies and perhaps even our oddies. This episode also gives us our greatest insight into Natalie K. She, like Milch, was gifted those paintings. But did any of you notice that when she's talking to him, her lip quivers? It looks like she's trying to restrain herself from something truly terrifying. Natalie is also interesting because she's the only one we know of who has actually heard the board she's assigned to recruit Rickon in creating a version of his book that would be suitable for the innies. Lumon knows that the innies found inspiration from his book, so if they're given a revised version in which Lumon can control the narrative, it could help maintain their control. This all seems to be in an effort to get MDR in line so it can complete its work on Cold Harbor. Then there's Irv, who takes a bit of a back seat this episode, but one that gives us some more clues about the mysterious elevator. He's recreated the image of his Audi's paintings, claiming his Audi likely saw this elevator in his dreams, but it still doesn't answer the question, if his Audi has never seen it, nor his innie, how is he having visions of it? His journey takes him back to O&D, where we meet Bert's old co-worker, Felicia. Upon showing her his drawing of the elevator, she instantly recognizes it. She calls this the exports hall and says they used to send their shipments there, but now Lumon sends a guy to do it. Milch. Perhaps the word exports suggests a commodity that is then sold abroad. We know O&D has an army of 3D printers where they print everything from watering cans to hatchets. Could these be sent via this elevator to Lumon branches around the globe? But why then is Miss Casey sent there? Where is she going? Is she even still at this Lumon branch with MDR working on a file connected to her? I doubt she's gone far. The main theory is that this elevator leads to a testing floor, a place where the severed are sent for procedures or retirement. Last episode, when I've left a message to an unknown person on this payphone, he said he thinks his innie got the message, and this message is likely the exports hallway. Maybe it's a way for them to get out. That's why he kept painting this over and over again while drinking coffee and blasting loud music. He wanted his innie to fall asleep at work so that he'd dream about the black hallway, which we saw manifest in this black goo. We're about to get into our trailer sleuthing section, where we go over the season's trailer to see just what might be in store for us in episodes to come. This episode took a break from AI Irv, but I think we'll be seeing more of him and what his relationship is like with Audibert. In this shot, we'll see that Irv is followed by someone, and we already know that Bert has been keeping tabs on him. I don't believe we've seen this person before, and they're standing in front of the exports elevator. If I had to take a guess, this is the same guy in this shot who brings the melon for Irv's melon party Coel, in some sort of underground tunnel. It's looking more and more like her character is not coming back to Lumon. We'll see images of Miss Casey, but we can't be sure if this is simply a hallucination from Mark. Here's Mark in the break room hallway, but notice how he's wearing a blue sweater and not his work attire, the same blue sweater we saw him wearing at Pip's. This is most likely the result of his reintegration at this Asian restaurant. We'll see AI with Helena in the background. To my knowledge, this is the first time Audi Helly and Audi Mark have met. We'll see some sort of flashback between Mark and Gemma, which is extra awkward because it also looks like Mark hooks up with Helly. Our 4 MDR workers here are all in matching Russian-inspired winter outfits. We do not know if these are our innies or Audis. Here's Helena being drowned, and it made me think of that bobbing for pineapple scene from the Lumon introductory video. Milch, in his white Russian-inspired outfit. Rickon, in front of his typewriter, will he go ahead and write those changes Lumon wanted to his book? This shot is super weird, it looks like any Irv is in a desecrated forest. Maybe he's having one of those dreams again. So, there is still a lot to get into and even more mysteries left to be uncovered. But now, I turn it over to you. What do you think will happen next? I want to hear your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, remember, I love you.